I've made a lot of podcasts. Of course, it's 365-day podcast. I'm going to make a podcast every day for a whole year. But I think now is a good time to talk about what it actually means to make a podcast. What does it actually look like to do a podcast? What does a podcast look like? What qualifies as a podcast? You can even look at some of my videos and say, okay, are these really podcasts or are these just videos? What's the difference? I'm going to be going over that today, going over how you can make a podcast, what it looks like, and what the differences are between podcasts and videos, and some ideas if you ever want to make some content for yourself, or if you want to support me on my journey as well, judging me, giving me ratings in terms of how good the episodes are, whatever you want to do. This episode will help you in that regard. So I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be a little bit of a quicker one today, but I still hope it is valuable for you. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get right into it. I make a podcast episode every single day for 365 days. You will be hated for speaking the truth.
You definitely have like an X-ray goggles on, where you can see someone's aura.
A house divided against itself shall not stand. Matthew chapter 12, verse 25.
If you want to make something of yourself, forget your political beliefs.
Because different believers experience God in different ways, different non-believers need different explanations to see God as real. Things that make you angry suck you in.
Satan's plan fails, right? And God's plan prevails.
What makes a podcast? I think at times it's actually a very simple explanation. It's basically the difference between a normal YouTube video and a podcast is as simple as just editing. A podcast, the whole point of it has to be raw, real. At most, you have like a couple of cuts if someone on the show says something stupid and you want to just cut it out. Sometimes that happens, but for the most part, a podcast is unedited. It is completely just you talking to the camera, being raw, real, making mistakes, stuttering. You get to see everything, right? Whereas an actual video is probably heavily edited. Every single stutter is cut out, and there are many different cuts. Every single thing that you said is just cut out. And it's like very, very meticulous. It's very, very specific in terms of how it looks like. And an actual YouTube video like that is actually just designed to teach you something, give you some sort of a lesson of some sort. It's usually going to be a bit shorter on average. Sometimes it'll be longer, of course, but also I have short podcasts as well. So it's like, how do you differentiate between that? I think it does have to do with it as simple as a podcast is raw, it's real. There's no cuts. If not, there's only like minimal cuts. Like I cut my episodes basically when like someone interrupts me, or if I like stutter and I have to just like gather my thoughts again once in a while, or if there's like a big pause in between one thought and the next thought, I'll make some cuts in that regard. But whereas YouTube videos, you'll cut out like every single tiny little pause and every single little stutter to make it as smooth as possible. Whereas sometimes the podcasts don't flow the same, but you're trying to target a different audience. It's a different group of people that you're looking towards. You're looking for people that love podcasts, right? Podcasts, it's like it's supposed to be longer. It's supposed to be you kind of just talking, and you do whatever you're doing. You're doing work while listening to it. You're doing a workout. You're traveling on the bus. You're in the car. Whatever you're doing, or if you're doing something and you're listening to it in the background. Usually that's how it works. Sometimes people just watch it just to watch it, but usually you're watching it and something's in the background, or it's in the background and you're doing something else. So you want to make content that kind of appeases to that. So you want it to be like a little bit longer. Like I try my best to put my episodes in the 20 to 30 minute range. Sometimes they go longer, but a lot of times they actually do go shorter. And then that's where the gray area is. It's like, okay, is this now just like a normal video because it's like a 10-minute long podcast, but it's nowhere near as long as a podcast should be? Or is it still considered a podcast because of the fact that what I've said before, it's raw, there's no cuts, no edits, it's just me talking to the camera? I'd say it's still considered a podcast, but it's like obviously there's that gray area. It's like if you're making it and it's that short, yeah, you could probably qualify it as just a standard YouTube video. I also upload these podcasts on Spotify as well. Not many people know that because not many people make it to the ends of my episodes. I promote it at the end of every episode, but yeah, go follow on Spotify if you haven't yet. I leave that in the YouTube descriptions, but obviously, like, that's definitely a podcast because well, I don't just upload it as YouTube videos. I upload it on YouTube and Spotify. Some people, you upload it on other streaming platforms as well, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast software's out there. Some people go and upload it on all of them, but I think YouTube and Spotify are good starts. And also what makes a podcast is necessarily like you have podcasts where it's just audio. There's no video. It's just you talking into like a voice note, right? That's a good way. That's a good way you do it. Like you have your voice notes on the phone. You can talk into it, and then you can actually upload that audio file. But I prefer to do the video because I prefer you guys to see my face, to see my reactions to things, to see it, and I think it makes it more professional, makes it more real if you see who I am and you know what I'm saying and what's actually happening in my life, right? And when the odd time that I do get a guest on, again, I've only done it twice in this show. I hopefully will try and do a few more guests before the end of this show. But like you see it, that's like it's much more entertaining, valuable if you actually have the video. But yes, a podcast is it's definitely a podcast if it's just an audio, right? Of course, that makes it a podcast because it's an audio. You upload it to your podcast platform. It's easier, I think, to upload an audio file to a podcast platform than having to do the video. But I go above and beyond for you guys. That's why I do the videos, and I think they're good. I try my best to make them as good as possible. Another thing that makes a podcast is just value. I try in every one of my episodes to give you some sort of a lesson. Of course, it doesn't always have to be like self-help. It can definitely be talking about something fun. Like at times I do just make episodes just for fun. Like sometimes conversations with friends will be for fun. Like in the future when I have stuff planned, there will be some more fun, lighthearted stuff rather than just constantly being so serious. But I'm a serious guy. I'm a Christian guy, believer. So I try to that usually is the majority of the topic for my podcast is along those lens, those godly things or like deep life lessons. But I always try and give a lesson in every show. You don't have to do that if you're going to do your own videos. You don't have to do that, but I choose to, and I think like my thing is just give value. Just give as much value, as much good lessons, like as much as I can, just by saying words to a camera as much as you possibly can. Give good ideas, good things that provoke different levels of thought within you, the audience. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, like in some regard, just give you massive amounts of value. And I think that also is what makes a podcast. Of course, you can make YouTube videos giving people value, of course. But I think a podcast, just it being longer in general, on average, there's just more to say, there's more value, there's more content. I think personally it's better for the viewer if there's more value in a longer episode than just like a short 10-minute YouTube video talking about like one tiny small specific thing. But again, like as I said, I've had to have podcasts where it was kind of like that as well. It was a shorter podcast, just giving value, giving some lesson, but it was much shorter than a normal podcast. Well, because it was kind of the reason why whenever I upload like a shorter episode is because I genuinely don't. It's because I don't have time. Other times it's because I'm like super tired and like I've had a long day, or I've had to wake up super early in the morning and I have to kind of rush it together. You can tell based on the quality of the episodes when I actually have the time to put a lot of effort into it. When I write it down here in this book, I have this book here with my notes. When I actually write down like a structure for the episode versus when I'm just kind of going off the cuff, you can tell the difference in the quality. And usually there's also a difference in like how long it is as well. So I think I would still qualify even the shorter ones podcast, because going back to like giving you guys value, but also not making a lot of edits. I think that's what makes a podcast. And also another thing for podcasts is if there's multiple people, it's definitely a podcast, right? A podcast is usually like a conversation. The vast majority of my episodes have been just me talking to a camera by myself. Again, I think they would still be classified as podcasts for the reasons I already talked about. But what makes a podcast more of a podcast is if there's multiple people, right? Getting a guest on, talking to a friend, whatever you're talking about. You could talk about literally anything. Like I did podcast. I only had 2 guests on. I had my friend River, who was a very, very, very intellectual guy, and like when we were having conversations, I was like, oh, I should get this guy on the podcast. He's very interesting. And we ended up having a 3.5 hour long conversation talking about a huge variety of many different topics. And then more recently, but already like a couple months ago, I got my friend Michael on, and we didn't talk about the same types of things that I talked about with River, but we still talked about a lot of fun stuff. We still like had a laugh. We still had some good times, some good lessons as well. And still talk, like again, 2 hours long. It was still a very good episode. And hopefully in the future I'll get some more friends on. But again, it doesn't have to be serious all the time, right? It can be just you having fun and being entertaining, right? You you kind of model it off of the big guys, right? You look at the big guys. Look at a guy like Joe Rogan. Look at like Chris Williamson or Andrew Huberman. These are different types of podcasts, but I think it's all kind of similar. It's like you're trying to provide value, but you're also trying to have a good time, right? Vast majority of Joe Rogan episodes is like it's just something interesting or it's just something funny. They're just talking about stuff that's going on in their lives. Like half the time they're talking about like fighting, UFC, because that's what concerns him. That's what he's interested in. So in a podcast, it's also very good to talk about things you're interested in. And that's also a very good thing because it attracts the people to the show that are also interested in the same stuff. Obviously, for me, first and foremost, it's my faith, my belief in God, my belief in Jesus. That's what I will talk about first and foremost. But of course, I always give examples from my life in terms of football / soccer, wherever you're from. That type of thing. That sport's been my sport for my whole life. I've even talked a little bit about baseball, how I've been getting into baseball as well in recent times. I made episodes talking about music, talking about movies, because and also talking about video games at times, because these are things that I enjoy, and these are things that I'm interested in. So, and I'm also interested in just like health in general, like fitness, sleeping, eating habits, those types of things. Like I talk about them decently often on this show, and I include them as a part of like when I'm thinking of some deeper idea or deeper concept. I'll usually try to take examples of my own life, examples of the things that I'm interested in to make it an episode that is a little bit more entertaining, more interesting. So a podcast doesn't have to be, what it doesn't have to be is something that's always about self-help. I try to always, like me personally, I try to always put a lesson into it, but it can really just truly be something entertaining, something interesting, because people will watch it regardless, and it doesn't really matter what you talk about, as long as you kind of put the effort in. That's what I think makes for a good show. And even if vast majority of these episodes are just me talking to the camera, I didn't get that many guests on yet. At least, hopefully, I'll get a few more again before the 365 days are up. Hopefully, and I can make some much better episodes in that regard. And also, they take very long to edit. When I have a 2-hour podcast, 3-hour podcast with a guest, they take very long to edit. So that's why, like, if I were to do that every day, I would burn myself out very quickly. So I have to kind of spread out kind of the workload. But I still think even if it's me talking to the camera, what makes it a podcast and not just a standard video is pretty much what I've already talked about. It's the fact that it's just me talking, no edits, very minimal cuts in the video, me having an idea, a specific idea that I'll talk about that gives value. And I think that is what makes a podcast. And usually it's better if it goes longer, like the longer the better, because it kind of separates it from what would just be a normal video. And the fact that I upload on different platforms as well, not just YouTube. And on Spotify, you have the option to play the audio as well. Like it doesn't, like, you don't just have to watch the video. You can listen to it on audio. Like you turn your phone, again, you're in the gym, you're working out, you turn your phone off, it's just in your ears, you're listening to it, right? Those are, I think, like the key characteristics of a podcast that make a podcast distinctly different from just a standard video. And even if it is just me talking to the camera, I try my best to make it entertaining. I try my best to make it valuable. And I think that is what matters. But yeah, what makes it more of a podcast is having people on, right? Having people on, having guests, having a conversation, something that's fun or something that's insightful, or some combination of the two. A good combination of the two is probably the best, right? Like the best podcast is just a great conversation, right? Where one moment you're talking about one thing, the next moment you're talking about another thing. Like you're having laughs, you're laughing, you're crying, you're getting angry, you're thinking deeply. That is what makes, like, probably for some of the best quality podcasts. And I wish I could have done more. Again, there's still time for me to do a few more episodes kind of like that, but as of now, it's not really, like, it's not really as much as I wanted to do. Like, at one point, I wanted to have guests on, like, once a week, but I couldn't really get people on, and other people have other responsibilities, right? Like, I have the time. I'm blessed that I have the time every day to sit, and I can even have 2 hours to myself. Very rarely I actually talk. I think the longest solo episode I did was an hour. I think there was only one time where I went over an hour on a solo episode. So that means if you do the math, there's only 3 episodes that are over an hour. So that's not really podcasty. I feel like a podcast could be much longer than that, and it's perfectly fine if you have a 3-hour podcast, right? Like, again, Joe Rogan sometimes makes 4-hour, 5-hour long podcasts, right? If you watch Protect Your Parks, it's like that is that is protect whatever the protect the parks, protect our parks. I think that's the word. Protect our parks. They sometimes go for 4 hours, 5 hours, right? The most recent episode was only like three and a half, but sometimes they go longer. And I don't go that long, but I still think what makes my show, a podcast, what differentiates it are the things that I've already outlined, and the fact that like that it's kind of like the thought that counts. I think it's kind of just the structure of it, the style of it, my cadence, what I'm saying, right? Like how my voice is projecting into the microphone and going out there into the world. I think it makes it very much a podcast, and it classifies it as a podcast versus just standard videos. But yes, it's 365 podcasts, right? I make a podcast every day. Not everyone does this, right? A lot of podcasts, it's once a week or a couple times a week, and that's fine. That's not detrimental, right? For me, it was just my own thing, my own grand idea that I wanted to do it every day. But yeah, unfortunately for me, like I've been lucky enough, even on days where I've been just been going crazy, right? I've been having like crazy day, stressed out of my mind, so much chaos. That would be the type of day where I would kind of sit down, do like a very short, sometimes under 10 minutes, sometimes 10 to 15 minute episodes, talking about like a specific thing. Those would be those types of days, right? When I would have like a very chaotic day. But I've been blessed that a lot of my days have not been very chaotic. They have been very structured, and I've been able to have the time to sit down and make an episode every day, like without a whole lot of intense stress. Obviously, again, individual days, been over 200 days. Like there were, and there will still be like a lot of days where I will be very, very, very stressed and won't have a lot of time. So that's when I have to upload like a shorter episode. But that's the beauty of uploading it every day, is because one episode's a short episode, but then another episode is like a banger, 40-minute long, specific, deep topic where I kind of break down something in such a good way. I've done so many episodes like that. You have to go and look throughout my content. Like, again, there's a lot there, but I would recommend like a few specific videos where I really just went hard. I think so. I made a video a few days ago talking about exactly that, talking about some of my favorite videos of the podcast and some interesting statistics about the podcast. I'll leave it in the cards if I can find this part of the episode. I will leave it in the cards. But yeah, so what makes a podcast and a video a video? I'm just going to kind of conclude the ideas that I've been spewing out here, talking about my own show as well in this episode. What makes a podcast is not just putting it on YouTube, putting it on other platforms as well, having the ability to stream it, the ability to just listen to it. You don't have to just watch a video. It can be something listenable as well. Usually longer episodes, uncut, raw and real, talking about specific content and giving very high amounts of value or entertainment or laughs or fun times, whatever the kind of topic you want to talk about it and go all out, right? I think those are the things that make a podcast, a video, usually shorter, usually lots of cuts, lots of edits, usually maybe even like you even add graphics and stuff to it. Very rarely do I add like graphics and stuff to these episodes and like extra things like background videos, music, right? Like even in a YouTube video, there will be music in the background, there will be videos and again, lots of cuts, and it makes such a huge difference because it's just different types of content. And you can kind of tell. It's like if it's a podcast, it's supposed to be longer. It's supposed to be for the people that are able to do it, to watch it for that long or to listen to it for that long. Like again, or listening to it while they're doing other stuff. Like I don't mind if you listen to my show while doing your work or something like that. It's like it's fine. It's all good by me. But a video, especially if it's a shorter video, is designed for the types of people that have low attention spans and can't focus on something for longer than a few seconds. That's why it's optimized to have so many cuts in the episode, right? Like I, for a long time in my life, made short videos, right? And I'm still going to try and make a few short videos for this show. Like I've been kind of slacking on that regard because of all the stresses going on in my life recent time. I hardly had time to record the episode, let alone spend another hour, over an hour making a short video. But in the past, I made different shorts, and there was this whole kind of structure to how you would have to do it. You would have to make cuts like every 3 seconds, and sometimes you'd actually have to do it quicker because you have to change people's perspectives. Like if you're just looking at the same thing very rarely will people be able to look at it because people's attention spans have been so just cooked in recent times. You have to make cuts. And it's the same thing for actual YouTube videos that are like designed for value, sure, but it's the same type of concept. You're constantly making cuts to keep people engaged. Because when you're changing the thing that people are looking at it like stimulates the brain in a little bit more of a deeper way when you change what they're seeing every few seconds. And that's how a video will work. That is kind of the ideas of a video. Whereas a podcast is not targeted towards people that have low attention spans that can't watch something for more than a minute, right? It's not targeted towards that. It is targeted towards the types of people that can listen to something for longer, that are interested by it, that are looking to improve their life in some way and want to spend a lot of time on it. That is what a podcast is more so for than just a standard video. So those are the separators between a podcast and a video. How you should do a podcast, for me it's every day, but a podcast doesn't need to be every day. It was just the thing that I chose to do. But a podcast could very well be once a week, a couple times a week. And that's perfectly fine. I think actually sometimes it's better to do less episodes because you have more time to make them higher quality, more time to get guests on, find people to arrange a time where you guys can record together. And that'll only make the episodes better. More time to edit the episodes, especially if it's a super long episode. You need to spend a lot of time editing it. That is like that can make actually the podcast a higher quality thing. Sometimes sometimes I fall into the guilty trap of I upload every day and sure I'm just pumping content, but sometimes it's not as high quality as it could be if I were to take more time uploading it once a week, right, or a couple times a week. But of course, again, this is what I said. I said I was going to do the 365 days, so that's exactly what I'm going to do, no matter what. So again, maybe sometimes the quality gets sacrificed for just the consistency. Sometimes that's going to have to happen, but it's not a bad thing if you're only uploading once a week. Sometimes it's actually better. It's actually more advantageous to you because you have the chance, more time to kind of organize something. And again, podcasts just try and provide value, whatever the value looks like. If it is just deep life lessons or if it is just entertainment, whatever the value is, have some sort of a structure, some sort of an idea as to what that valuable thing is. Ideally, it's supposed to be a longer episode. And that's kind of what makes a podcast good. It's what makes a podcast a podcast, and it's what makes it good is by talking about a lot of good concepts, a lot of entertaining things, having some entertainment in there, trying to crack some jokes and kind of sneak some funny things in there to keep people engaged, get them to laugh. But yeah, you're not targeting the people that don't have high attention spans. You're targeting the people that are a little bit more conscientious of things and you're targeting the types of people that would rather watch a podcast than watch a movie, for example, or would rather watch a podcast than watch a show. And there are a lot of people out there. Podcasting is pretty big right now because of that, because a lot of people have been able to optimize and grown huge audiences because of the fact that they've been able to optimize for these exact things to keep people engaged, but not necessarily have to make cuts every single second. Because yes, like sometimes movies are good and shows are good and other ways to pass the time are good, but I think a lot of people are looking for something a little bit more deep, a little bit more kind of educating, let's say, to them. And podcasts are a huge way of doing that. And so many people go and watch podcasts because of it, right? Stuff like Andrew Huberman, very educational, right? Joe Rogan is more of like a funny guy entertainment stuff. Like Andrew Huberman, super hyper educational, right? And that's why he's so popular, because he's found that audience of people that just are looking for a little bit more than just the cheap entertainment. They're looking for a little bit more value. And podcasting gives you such a huge opportunity to do it, more so than just a shorter, more standard YouTube video. So that is my breakdown on what makes a podcast, what makes my podcast, and what you can potentially do to make a podcast good, to make it consistent, and to separate yourself, differentiate yourself from what an actual just standard YouTube video would look like, what the differences are, and what separates me specifically from just making videos versus like counting them and considering them podcasts. So I've broken that down today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was interesting, and I hope if you're going to be making content, I hope that this helps you know what you're going to do, and it gives you more of a structure as to and at least some ideas as to what you're going to do if you're going to go the podcast route, the longer episodes, the uncut stuff route, or if you're going to go the more shorter cut videos route when it comes to your content. I hope that's giving you some ideas as to what you can possibly do. But yes, that is what I got to say for today. Of course, I make an episode every day. You know, if you're making a podcast, you're making content, you don't have to do it every day. But for me, that's my thing, because I started saying it's called 365 Podcast for a reason. So I'm making it every day for 365 days. This is episode 217, I think. So we're getting there. It's gone by decently quick, but at the same time, it's been pretty long. It's been a long ride so far. But hopefully, the quality will only continue to increase in these next few months as I kind of approach the home stretch to the 365 days. I hope that I've given you value today, and I hope that I've given you lots of value throughout this show so far. I hope that I will continue to give you guys good value until the end of the 365 days are done. So if you enjoyed this episode and you want to see something else, there are many other good episodes on the show. In a few seconds, YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, it will show you a recommended video that YouTube thinks that you will like. So I ask that you go watch that one. Of course, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't yet. Follow the show on Spotify, as already mentioned. I do have upload on Spotify. Not a lot of people know about it. I try to plug it in every episode. So yes, go follow there. It really helps. I'll leave it in the YouTube description, as I always do. Like the video and leave a comment. Show your support in any way that you possibly can. And I appreciate you for being here, as always. Thank you for watching up until this point. And I will sign off in the way I always do. Continue to glorify God throughout your life every single day. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow for the next episode of the 365 Podcast.